After 23 years, or only 18 if you're a fan of 28 Weeks Later, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland have re-teamed and returned to the Rage virus outbreak with this year's 28 Years Later. It's no secret that the trailers won pretty much everyone over, but reviews have been decidedly mixed since its release. To be truthful, this is one of the most divisive movies I've seen in a long while, and whether you loved it, liked it, or hated it, it gave everyone a lot to think about. So let's kick off BAM-O-WEEN 2025 by trying to unpack it all. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I am going to be breaking down all of my thoughts, the many intricacies and details of 28 Years Later. Before I hop into the actual video itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have carefully curated playlists for every type of video I do, be it video essays like this one, ranking videos, top 10s versus videos, and so much more. There is a playlist for all, so I encourage you to explore the channel, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And if by some chance you don't, then feel free to suggest something you might like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Naturally, the best place to open is with the actual opening of the movie itself. It opens at a breakneck pace, placing us in the Scottish Highlands sitting in a room with a group of children looking scared and anxious as they watch the Teletubbies. Quickly, a woman bursts through the door with another child in hand and drops them in the room before ripping back out of there and telling them to be quiet and not leave the room. We hear a lot of commotion from the kid's perspective before the door bursts back open and floods the room with infected. Though we don't see any of the actual carnage, it's not hard to fill in the blanks, given the screams, the look on the boy's face, and the blood continuously splattering on the TV screen. We know now that we're following the young boy who was by the door named Jimmy Crystal, who will become important to the film's ending and sequel. This introduces us right away to two key themes: parents willing to do anything to protect their kids and the loss of innocence. Though we don't see anything that takes place in that room, Jimmy sees everything. We then follow him making his way through the chaos unfolding in the house before he escapes, making his way to a nearby church. He quickly identifies the priest as his actual father by calling him Dad. His father spouts off some nonsense about being a glorious and beautiful day before he hands Jimmy his crucifix necklace and embraces the infected while Jimmy hides nearby. Jimmy once again witnesses this, while also being introduced to another major theme in the movie: faith. As the infected rush out of the church, Jimmy finally comes out of hiding and flees the church himself. We follow him as things fade to black, except for the necklace Jimmy still has in his hand, the crucifix now upside down, glowing in the darkness. This is a pulse-pounding opener, which is something this series has gone 3 for 3 in. I still think Weeks has the best of the bunch, but damn it, this one is so freaking good. I can't stop thinking about it. The fear in the children's eyes, the disorientation and mayhem as Jimmy makes his way through the house, everything in the church, and of course the closing shot. It's not only a bloody brilliant way to kick off a movie, but a clever way to discreetly lay the groundwork for the upcoming themes. From there, the movie breaks down like this. We're introduced to Holy Island and its inhabitants, including some of our main characters: Spike, our true lead, his father Jamie, and his mother Isla. Spike and Jamie head out to the mainland for Spike's rite of passage, killing an infected. They're met with overwhelming odds and must wait for an opening to return home. They make their way back. Spike finds out there's a doctor somewhere on the mainland and crafts a plan to sneak off Holy Island with his sick mother to get her help. They manage to get away successfully, and this brings us to the brunt of the story. Spike and Isla are met with adversity before finding a baby and reaching Dr. Kelson and his bone temple. And no, that isn't some sort of sexual metaphor, it's a temple built from literal human bones. Isla accepts her fate, Spike drops the baby back off at Holy Island along with a note before heading out on his own adventure to see what else the mainland holds. When he encounters a group of infected, and it seems like he's done for, Jimmy from the opening returns, now as a grown man, with a group of folks dressed just like him who make quick work of the infected. The end. Seems pretty straightforward, but honestly there's a lot packed in here, so let's really dive in. One major theme I've already touched on is the loss of innocence. Right in the opening, while watching Teletubbies no less, Jimmy is violently stripped of his innocence as he watches his entire family savagely ripped apart or turned by the infected. Spike is caught in the middle of his parents' tug-of-war over this exact theme. Isla thinks he's too young, but Jamie thinks he can handle himself and should go to the mainland now rather than waiting until the typical age of 14 to 15. Spike has no say in the matter and simply wants to please his parents. Given Isla's condition, Jamie prevails and takes Spike to the mainland and forces him to kill the infected, despite his clear hesitation, fear, and reluctance. This leads perfectly into the next major themes I wanted to talk about. Manhood, or what it means to be a man, adulthood, or coming of age, and parenthood. Some of these, like what it means to be a man, can be broken down even further into what does it take to be a good man, father, son, or husband/partner. The movie first appears to be centered on that first part, manhood, or what it means to be a man. Almost all of our focus is on Spike and Jamie, with Jamie being the clear alpha in the community. He pushes Spike to the mainland a lot earlier than he probably should have, and doesn't even consider whether Spike wants to go at all or not. In this world, being a man means being strong. It means being a warrior. It means providing. Survival of the fittest, if you will. Though Jamie shows moments of tenderness, he is the dude bro manly man archetype for the most part. Spike has to stop being so sensitive. He has to grow up fast. He can't show any emotion, especially fear, and he needs to kill the infected. These are the lessons he teaches his son about being a man. Basically, he's trying to mold Spike into a mini-me of sorts. This is all reinforced upon their return, where they throw a party celebrating Spike's rite of passage into manhood, and Jamie exclaims that Spike is a slayer of giants. So that begs the question, does being like his father make Spike a good man? Or does dispelling his father's fairy tales about their adventure, pushing his father away after catching him with another woman, and choosing to take care of his mother make him more of a man? Is the old view of what makes a man actually the old view, or do enough people still see it that way that it's still a relevant argument? Taking this piece into account, how can Spike be a good son when his parents have such opposing views of the world and aspirations for him? Is it following in his father's footsteps because they are both men? Is it taking after his mother considering she carried and birthed him? Is it trying his best to please everyone? Trying to care for and be compassionate with his mother, but also being a stone-cold, hardened killer with his father? Nowadays, it's more about the individual. It's about taking all that your parents or guardians have taught you and becoming your own person. But in this world, in this isolated community, Spike doesn't really have that choice. Holy Island is very role-based, and Spike was born with certain expectations already in mind. So how about a good father? Does a good father only harden their sons, protect their family, and provide? We see brief glimpses of Jamie's sillier and softer side while they're on the mainland, but he also forces Spike to kill the guy hanging upside down and chastises him when he can't do it. Plus, when they get back to Holy Island, he gets drunk and goes all macho dude bro, saying they killed dozens of infected, sleeping with another woman, and hitting Spike when he confronts him about his infidelity. So which version of this character is a good father? Is it a mix of both? Is one version the old way and the other version this sort of modern day way? I won't touch too much on the good husband slash partner thing because although it is present in the movie, it's nowhere near as prominent as the others. Sure, like a good father, a good husband should provide, should protect him, so on. But come on. Jamie is a cheating piece of shit who seemingly only cares just enough for his wife to seem sympathetic as he waits for her to die. I don't hate Jamie as a character. In fact, in a lot of ways, I think he may actually be the most complex character in the movie, but a good husband, he is not. The last manling piece to touch on is the fact that the alphas are a clear metaphor for the prototypical man. In my mind, the alphas don't just represent members of a pack that emerge as leaders due to their strength, but the age-old mindset of what being a man is. They're tall, fit, fast, smart, have massive dongs, are ruthless, unflinching, and animalistic. They mark their territory and establish their dominance by ripping off the heads of their victims with the spine still attached and brandishing them like trophies. The second piece of Spike's journey, because make no mistake, this is Spike's movie, is Spike's coming of age. He's raised in a sheltered world by parents who view him differently and want different things for him. Then to make matters more complex, he meets Dr. Kelson who teaches him the value of life. All life. Jamie and Isla are set in their ways. Though I do believe over time everyone can change, that's a privilege we have in our world, not one they have in theirs. Spike doesn't change who he is by the end of the movie, he starts to become who he will be. Jamie's teachings are tough and his worldview is narrow and unmoving. Isla, though we don't know her before her sickness, believes more in compassion and understanding. Spike identifies with both sides of the coin, and once Dr. Kelson shares some of his wisdom, Spike's eyes are open to how wide the world really is, and that there's not just these two points of view he was raised with. It's not also black and white, like women are soft and men are hard. People are people, and Spike decides it's time for him to make his own decisions and find his own way. To find himself. The last piece is parenthood, and I've already covered that quite a bit actually. Both Isla and Jamie have opposing views on how to raise Spike, yet they try to find compromise when and where they can. Spike is their top priority, and they're both willing to sacrifice anything, including themselves, to protect him. This becomes most apparent by the end of the movie, when Isla makes the ultimate sacrifice, so Spike is no longer putting himself in danger to protect her. Though I can't pretend to fully understand it since I'm not yet a parent, the movie gives us a good idea of the hardships, difficult decisions, and triumphs every parent faces. A key component I only really glossed over was Dr. Kelson's role in Spike's coming-of-age journey. Long story short, Spike notices a fire and mentions it to Jamie. Jamie plays it off, and when Spike discovers the fire comes from someone named Dr. Kelson, he confronts Jamie on it, who merely claims that Kelson has long since gone mad. Spike believes this Kelson figure can help his mom, and so against his father's wishes, and his own better judgment, he flees Holy Island with his sick mother to find Dr. Kelson. After Kelson saves their lives, we're introduced to the Bone Temple. Once again, not an innuendo, you sick freaks. Alongside two key sayings that are the pillars of this movie. Memento Mori, remember we die, and Memento Amoris, remember we must love, remember to live. Sure, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but you get the point. This is what I would argue the most important section of the movie. When introducing Spike and Isla to the Bone Temple, Kelson says, "So many dead, infected and uninfected alike, because they are alike. Every skull was a set of thoughts, these eye sockets once saw, and these throats once spoke and swallowed. The only certainty of life is death." Essentially, Kelson has made a monument to honor the dead. All the dead. As we know, the infected are just that, infected, but they are very much so still living, breathing humans. They need food, water, and sleep in order to survive, just like us. During the infected birth scene, the infected woman has a shockingly soft and tender moment with Isla, giving us our first real glimpse at the possibility that whoever this once was may still be in there. After a while, we find out that Isla is terminally ill with cancer, and she subtly asks Kelson to kill her out of mercy. So she's no longer putting Spike in danger as he helplessly tries to protect her. It acts as a stark reminder that, although we can fear death and its inevitability, we're better off remembering to live and to love while we can. Be afraid of death, be neutral to it, welcome it, it makes no difference. What really matters is what we choose to do with the time we have, and that's what Spike learns here. Kinda like I was saying with 28 Days Later, survival alone isn't enough. You need love, you need compassion, you need people. He's led by his father to believe that Kelson is a monster. Instead, Spike meets a compassionate man who has dedicated the remainder of his life to reminding everyone that comes across him to live their lives, regardless of the circumstances. The Bone Temple doesn't differentiate between infected and non-infected because at the end of the day, we're all human. The movie then cleverly asks, how much compassion are the infected owed? Kelson's work is meant to memorialize the lives of those we've lost, to remind us to not forget those who have moved on, and to preserve the humanity of the dead. A fun one I've been pondering since this movie's release is this. According to Jamie, because the infected have no mind, they have no soul. Does that mean that because Isla is losing her mind, she is also losing her soul? Is this why Jamie essentially exiles her to her bedroom? Is she not owed the same level of care and compassion as everyone else because she can no longer play her role in the community? It's an interesting one to think about. As I just recently mentioned, Spike's mother Isla is revealed to have cancer this entire time, and will soon die, painfully. With the simple subtlety of a look and a nod, Kelson sedates Spike and mercy kills Isla with a poison dart before cleaning her bones and allowing Spike to place her skull somewhere in the Bone Temple, wherever he sees fit. This is by far the most emotional moment of the movie. Spike had to be sedated the night before because it had become very clear he wasn't yet willing to let his mother go. But two things were also simultaneously true. First, Kelson knew the right thing to do. The second, Isla was doing it for the right reason. She wasn't afraid to fight for her life, but she was afraid of Spike losing his trying to protect her. This portion of the movie is about Spike coming to terms with life and death. What it means to truly live and the value of the gift that is life. Like I've mentioned, the whole movie is about Spike learning these lessons. This is Spike's story. Not only is Spike placing Isla's skull at the top of the mountain of bones as the sun rises a symbolic bit of imagery, but the baby then being named after her in the end is a clear sign of the cycle of life, showcasing the idea of rebirth. It's about remembering those who have moved on, understanding we live and we die, and realizing it's the natural order of all things in our world. Another major element of this movie is the idea of faith, and how that comes in many different shapes and forms. You have traditional religion, you have cults, you have tribes, and it's all jammed in here. Holy Island lives like they're in the medieval times, and I guess they sort of are. They are very tribalistic and militaristic, but also backed by strong religious beliefs. The militarism on the island is very apparent from the way they view sharing the world with the infected as war, and the fact that all boys are raised training to kill the infected. The community puts extra emphasis on dehumanizing the infected, making it easier to kill them, and the inclusion of the Rudyard Kipling poem Boots wasn't just a stylistic choice. Boots is about the psychological toll of the endless, monotonous marching of the British soldiers during the Second Boer War in South Africa. The poem focuses on the repetitive nature of marching and the way it drives soldiers to the brink of madness through the constant rhythmic sound and sight of their boots. Extra points to those of you who were clever enough to pick up on when this was used in the movie and why for that particular bit, along with why it was intercut with the footage that it was. As for the tribalistic stuff, that's all pretty evident too. Tribalistic is defined as advocating or practicing strong loyalty to one's own tribe or social group, and that seems pretty clear on Holy Island. Killing infected is a rite of passage. Everyone who doesn't live on Holy Island is mad or insane or strange and not to be messed with. The masks they wear during the celebration that they also use during target practice, the way we see them setting up the party for Spike, the rituals they have could be seen as religious or tribe-like, and so on. Speaking of religion, there are some very apparent religious undertones and motifs throughout the film. The religious undertones and motifs were all over the original 28 Days Later, and they're just as present here, if not even more so in your face. The opening with Jimmy where he runs to the church to seek help from his father who embraces the infected and says it's a glorious day, a day of judgment. Then Jimmy runs as it fades to black with the upside down crucifix necklace shining through. The Bible verse written on the side of a house reads, "Behold, he is coming with the clouds," before Jimmy, or his followers, scrawled his name on it. The Alpha, named Samson, is very likely a reference to the religious figure from the Bible known for his immense physical strength, and then, of course, everything with the Bone Temple, and Jimmy returning in the end with his upside down crucifix necklace once again. I'm sure there's plenty more in here, but I haven't gone through the movie frame by frame to find it all. Also, just like the first movie, the theme of isolation plays a big role. We learn at the very beginning of the movie, with further confirmation from the in-universe website, rageleaks.net, that the UK and Ireland are completely quarantined from the rest of the world. After continental Europe fought the infection back, the rest of the world unanimously agreed to shut everyone in and leave them to fend for themselves. Side note, I guess it never actually did reach the United States like they very openly and directly mentioned in the first movie.
The day before the TV and radio stopped broadcasting, there were reports of infection in Paris and New York.
Anyway, not only is the entirety of the UK and Ireland isolated from the rest of the world and trapped in time, but the inhabitants of Holy Island have also willingly isolated themselves on said island. The movie emphasizes the extreme effects that this level of isolation can have on both a community and the individuals within. They're narrow-minded, they not only fight but outright reject change or anything outside of their norm, and they have no idea how to cope with or handle anything beyond their control or small communal knowledge. Again, this was a theme of the first movie, but it's pushed much further here, and that's thanks to everybody's best friend, COVID-19. Director Danny Boyle and writer Alex Garland have both publicly stated that the thoughts and feelings the pandemic, particularly long stretches of quarantine, brought forth were major inspirations for the story. And what better pairing of themes is there than COVID-19 and the lack of trust in authority? First, the government. On rageleaks.net, it is confirmed that NATO knows there are still people living in the quarantined area. They know about the Bone Temple, they actively patrol the nearby water to ensure no one leaves, and there's even mentions of government cover-ups, with a key portion of one of the messages reading, they classify satellite images, they forbid any communication with survivor communities, they suppress rumors and discredit reports that somehow the infected have adapted. So, yeah, can't trust those guys. But look at other figures in the movie too. Jimmy's followers worship him, and without even seeing the sequel, it's pretty easily identifiable that he has led them way astray. Jimmy's own father betrays his trust by not protecting him in the opening, and Spike loses trust in his father after he cheats on Isla and dismisses the idea of going to see Dr. Kelson. The next one is a bit more loaded, and so by nature tougher to tame. What I'm talking about is nature reclaiming the world, so to speak. That encompasses the animal kingdom motifs woven throughout the story, harkening back to the return to normalcy line from the original movie, the stunning night sky during the causeway sequence due to the lack of light pollution, humans' inherent self-destructive nature, the rage virus as a metaphor for rebalancing the scales, and themes of evolution. So yeah, there's a lot in here, but let's try to condense it down. The obvious animal kingdom motifs. Alphas are alphas, like in a wolf pack or pride of lions, and the group they run with are their hunting party. But also, much like the animal kingdom, there's no morals or ethics in this world. It's survival of the fittest. Only the strongest survive and the strongest lead the pack. Kill or be killed, and that's exactly what we see here. Now, in my humble opinion, the rest comes back to this line from a soldier named Sergeant Farrell, who says,
"You know, man has only been around for a few blinks of an eye. So if the infection wipes us all out, that is a return to normality."
And he is undeniably correct. That's what we see all throughout this movie. Nature has taken the land back. Animals roam freely, we are not the alphas or the top of the food chain, even the infected have properly adapted. That's what humans, at least in this universe, are failing to do. We're so used to being in control, being able to bend and will things to our advantage, but as we see, these stubborn humans are running low on resources and are not in control here. Adapt or die, because nature will simply move on without us. Once we hit the mainland, you'll immediately notice one thing. It's stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. Colorful, rolling hills, breathtaking views, and overgrown beauty. Nature has reclaimed its land and it's simply mesmerizing. But before that, the causeway itself fits right into this line of thinking. Not only does it trap our characters on the mainland or keep the infected at bay, but it also acts as a way of showing, not telling, that nature is reclaiming its land. It's showing the survivors that they are no longer in control. Nature decides when they can or can't cross. It goes on its own time. There are no boats and they can't swim across or they'll be swept away to sea and so on. Then the causeway sequence itself is simply magical. There's no other way to describe it. From the music, to the stunning shots of the night sky, to the intensity of the chase, the camera work, I love all of it. The night sky is another nod to the world without us. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland themselves said this is what the night sky could look like without air/light pollution. The infected themselves have adapted and evolved to this world. We now have the regular infected that we're familiar with, the alphas, and the slow-lows. Boyle and Garland said the virus was not willing to let itself be killed off, and so it evolved through these mutations in order to survive. There's also mention on the website of another mutation, so we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. This leads us back to the baby, little Isla. Is she immune? Is she the long since promised answer to infection? Is she some sort of evolved hybrid? The next step in our evolution? Was her mother infected before or after she became pregnant? And is Samson the father? All of this in some sense stems from humans' natural self-destructive nature. We destroy everything we touch and often take for granted all of the natural beauty around us. Maybe the world and every living thing within it are better off without us. And maybe, like Woody Harrelson's wild, crazy character in 2012, or Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron, or countless other characters said, once we push things too far, something gets thrown our way to rebalance the scales and reset things back to square one, like dinosaurs and the meteor. Now for some final rapid-fire themes and thoughts before I dive into that ending. These are still important, but not necessarily large enough to carry their own sections. As shown in the trailers, the people of Holy Island have found a way to maintain a mostly sustainable living during the apocalypse, though I quickly noticed signs everywhere saying things like don't take gear unless you need it and not to shower for too long. They live like it's medieval times and everything is shared. The color palette reflects the bleak reality of their living situation too. Sure, they are living, but is there anything more to it beyond pure survival? It's sort of a hope versus stagnation. This is a recurring theme from the original movie, if you recall the video I did for that one. Selena's whole character arc revolves around this exact thing. When we first met her, and for a good portion of the movie, it's only about survival for her. As time goes on, she realizes that that's simply not enough. Survival for the sake of survival just simply will not do. As we all know too, the rest of the world has continued onward without the UK and Ireland in this universe, and we get a glimpse into that through the character Eric. When Eric is marooned in the UK after his Swedish military ship sinks, he's the last of his unit. He makes pop culture references Spike doesn't understand, he has a smartphone, and even shows a photo of his girlfriend on an Instagram-like app where she has had some bad lip filler work done. But he also has some dashes of the quarantine zone's mindset in him too. Kill all infected, shoot first, ask questions later, very little sympathy or morality, that sort of thing. It's just kind of leaning into that new world versus old, the very large difference in mindsets and way of living. Another major influence on the movie is the United Kingdom itself. Both Boyle and Garland are from the UK, and so all of that history, all of those experiences, all of the traumas are deeply embedded and encoded in every fiber of this story. Whether it's a commentary on Brexit, Danny Boyle taking inspiration from the COVID memorial wall, Boots stemming from the Second Boer War, and especially the humor. A lot of people did not connect with the movie's ending, especially Western audiences, but from what I've been told, it felt right at home for a lot of folks from the UK. Boyle and Garland also highlighted the fact that these traumatic events / periods of time often had people retreating into nostalgia for comfort and solace, which is something that also plays into the ending of the film. But before we get to the ending, the overall story beats, location, messages, metaphors, commentary, so on and so forth, almost all stem from the UK. Now, the ending. Easily the most talked about and divisive part of the movie. A lot of people were very turned off by this movie's ending. In fact, it actually made plenty of folks outright swear off the movie in its entirety. Though it didn't make me hate the movie, I was definitely a bit baffled and confused. The sudden 180 in tone, the shift in cinematography, music and costumes, it all had me scratching my head. But the longer I sat with it, thought about it, and took the time to research it, it all started to come together, and now I kind of love it. Not to mention, at this particular point in time, we do have the first trailer for 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, and that gives us a brief glimpse into the madness that lay ahead. What starts off as an almost hopeful ending quickly takes a turn for the strange and obscure, as a group of blonde-haired, colorful jumpsuit-wearing ninjas save Spike at the last second before their leader introduces himself as Jimmy Crystal. Yes, little Jimmy from the beginning of the movie, still wearing his father's crucifix necklace, albeit upside down, as it was when he ran for his life in the opening. However, diving just a bit deeper reveals a far more sinister ending. Jimmy Crystal has been confirmed to be a clear reference to the former children's TV icon Jimmy Savile, who, after his passing, was revealed to be a disgusting monster who sexually abused hundreds across decades. With that in mind, there are a million, well, maybe not a million, but for the sake of making a point, a million different ways to perceive this. First, we could look at the religious side of it. Jimmy watched his family turn or die right in front of him as a boy. The last thing his father said to him after gifting him the crucifix necklace was, "Keep this with you always, have faith." As Jimmy flees the church, in the opening it fades to black with the glimmering crucifix breaking through the darkness, but upside down. When we see him at the end of the movie, now a fully grown man 28 years later, he still has the crucifix necklace, again upside down. When the Bible verse is scrawled on the side of a house, "Behold, he is coming with the clouds," Jimmy or his followers scratched his name next to it. The infected found in either that house or another, I can't really remember, has Jimmy carved into its flesh. Does Jimmy use the cross and other symbolism, perhaps things his father taught him, to maintain control of his followers? Does he see himself as some sort of antichrist? The second way to view this is going back to the themes of lost innocence and coming of age prematurely. Essentially, we can look at it this way. Spike is a kid who came of age due to circumstances he found himself in and is just starting to figure out who he is. Jimmy, on the other hand, seemingly never grew up. He had his childhood violently ripped away from him and saw so much killing it desensitized him to it over time. Spike at least got something resembling a childhood. On Holy Island, they treat living like warfare and killing as necessary for survival, while Jimmy and his cult treat it like it's a game, finding the most fun, creative, and gruesome ways to kill the infected. It's also evident that Jimmy retreated and has remained in a world blinded by nostalgia, molding his life around the things he loved as a kid. This explains so much. Jimmy only knows what he watched and learned as a child. He didn't have a father figure after the outbreak and became something of a cartoon character himself. Perhaps Jimmy Savile was an idol of his growing up, and because the outbreak took place in 2002, he never got to know the truth. So now he portrays a version of the on-screen presence he watched growing up. Like Savile, Crystal appears friendly and caring on the outside, but we know he has the worst in mind for Spike and his followers. This also explains why Jimmy's followers are color-coded like the Teletubbies and fight like their Power Rangers. All of Jimmy's followers also appear to be quite a bit younger and are clearly influenced by him in a cult-like manner, mirroring the real world. They blindly follow a disgusting monster because they don't recognize him for who he truly is. He puts on this facade and they've clearly fallen for it. All of this plays perfectly into the theme that Garland intended for the ending, which explores how we can misremember things in our mythic retelling of the past. In other words, just plain old misremembering, willfully or otherwise. Sometimes stories have been told so many times we only remember it as it was told. Sometimes we choose to leave out the ugly parts. And sometimes, like in Jimmy's case, we only remember things from a child's POV. The third and final way is the failed father's perspective. Look at it this way. Jimmy's father failed him in his time of need, hence why Jimmy wears the cross upside down, carves his name next to a Bible verse, and dresses like what is presumably the only other father figure in his life, Jimmy Savile. Jimmy failed Spike after mythologizing their time on the mainland, cheating on his sick wife and refusing to take her to a doctor. And really, you can also see Jimmy in this role as well. His followers clearly idolize him and will do whatever he says on his every command, but he's clearly led them astray. They wipe out the infected with disturbing glee, making it as brutal and vile as possible. So again, a few ways to look at it. Maybe it's one of them, none of them, or all of them. But one thing we do know for sure is that Jimmy will be taking Spike under his wing, and the second movie is about the nature of evil. And that's that. All of my thoughts and the many themes, metaphors, motifs, and so on of 28 years later. Easily one of my personal favorite movies of the year. It may not be what I was expecting heading in, but it's kept me thinking long after seeing it, and that's arguably even better. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my take on this particular topic. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know what your thoughts are on 28 years later. I know we're a little late to the party on this video, but regardless, I still want to know. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you catch all of these little details? Or are there things that I missed? Comment below and let me know. Plus, I want to know, are you as hyped as me for 28 years later, The Bone Temple? As a reminder, this is the revamped BAM-O-WEEN movies, and it is your one-stop for everything movies. Be it video essays like this one, ranking videos, top 10s, versus videos, tier list videos, I have it all and so much more, along with your daily nerdy news wrap-ups, where I keep you up to date on everything movies, gaming, and TV related. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell icon so you don't miss a thing. As always, folks, I thank you all so very much for watching. Stay happy, healthy, and safe out there. From myself and the rest of the BAM-O-WEEN team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, and that's a wrap.